All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Money Matters. Hope you guys are having a good Sunday so far. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here. Today's going to be an exciting episode because if you guys did not read any of the captions and you just like clicked, oh, Madhura sent a reminder on Money Matters, I better join in, and you just joined in. Well, today's going to be fun because we are kind of like collaborating with another one of the segments that is in the teenageentrepreneur.com platform run by Ascendance. So, for those of you who do not know what is Ascendance, Ascendance is an international youth movement and social enterprise. I was one of the co-founders back then. We work with youngsters all across the world, and of course, many of these youngsters tune into Money Matters. You guys are amazing. You get to learn about personal finance at a very young age, and it makes me so happy to be able to see you guys at these talk shows. But there's a lot of other many different range of activities, right? So we have things like Saturday nights with Dr. Sirap and Dr. Bando. We have Roblox party. We have book club. We have anime club, which is starting next week. And all these different activities kind of like bring out the different interests that we have. I personally enjoy going for some of these activities. Like yesterday, we had a mini workshop. I absolutely enjoyed it. It was one of my favorites because I get to learn from the top executives in business and see how they think about things, see what are their ideas like, what are their methods like, and kind of like see how I can implement that in my life. So it's important to continue learning and continuously learn and improve yourself, and I'm just glad to be part of this platform so I can not only do some shows and share this knowledge with other people, but also learn myself. I also want to learn and grow, so I have a lot of fun. So like I mentioned, one of the segments in this platform is, of course, solving world problems. So this was launched by the CEO of Ascendance, Hasha herself, which was amazing, right? I think it's one of the most important segments that exists on this platform because it talks about solving world problems, which is an important topic. And for Ascendance, that's the end game. That's what we're looking at. How do we get youngsters to solve world problems? And it was exciting to have this segment where we have Gen Zs having discussions and conversations and learning about this whole topic of solving world problems and how extensive it is, how many things are there to look into, what are the ideas we have, is it doable or feasible, and all those kind of stuff. And they kind of like discuss this in the sessions. Whenever I go, I get mind blown, and I enjoy learning from these sessions. So I was excited to collaborate with the solving world problem segment to discuss how can we combine money matters and their reason segment today. So if you guys are wondering what happened in the segment, why did we choose to collaborate, all these other questions that come is going to follow this, we are going to invite the founder of solving world problem segment on the changemakers.com and also the CEO of Ascendance, Hasha, on stage. Hi, Hasha.
Hello everyone. Hi Madhura. How are you doing? I think if we read the comments, Hira is still laughing from the segment earlier that we had together, and I think
Yes.
with some of our participants in the chat. So we have Harish who joined, and for the rest of you guys, if you were in the session earlier in the Zoom call where we actually did today's solving Let's Talk About World Problems series workshop, let us know in the chat. Tell me your name so that I can recognize you and put your face in a way. But I think today was just so much fun. And as you said, I love the Solving World Problem series because every week we tackle a different issue, a different part of an issue. So for the last few, like I think a month, we actually had our series of income inequality. So we were talking about different ways of kind of like imagining a world without money. We even had Madhura as a guest speaker, don't worry. So not too controversial. We had lots of I would say sessions on creating your own reality, in a sense. How would you design your life if you had unlimited money? And then today we talked a little bit about poverty and tackling poverty in a sense. So part of how we do these sessions is we have workshop speakers and we have games and simulations. So we actually played this simulation called Spent, where you have to survive in the life of someone in poverty for a month. So you have a kid, you have to find a place to stay, you have to find a job, and you have to make a series of uncomfortable real life decisions on how are you going to spend your money. So are you going to fix your pipe that's leaking in the kitchen? Are you going to help your kid, send your kid for a birthday with a birthday present? All of these things spend money in a sense. What are you going to buy for your grocery shopping? And how do you do that on a very limited budget? So I see we have Isabella as well, who's very happy that they survived the simulation and they managed to go through 1 month of being alive. Kadir also, I think, was part of the group session. So, Madhura, for you, in a sense, why are we collaborating to them? Why do you think it's important for us to have these conversations?
I mean, I think it's what we are sharing in this particular session, or like the past few sessions in the solving world problems workshop, I think is interesting because most people don't talk about what is the life of somebody who's in poverty is like. We don't have this kind of conversations. We may see them like we when we're crossing in cities and we see the slums and oh, okay, those people are in poverty, and we just think we just they're just like a passing thought, nothing more than that. For many of us who come from, I think, backgrounds where we have a house, we have food, we have all of our basic needs taken care of. Some of us more than that is taken care of as well. We don't tend to have these kind of conversations. So for me, it was very interesting to see uh, young people actually starting to think about this and have these conversations and all of that. And then I was thinking, like, I have 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old, 13-year-old kids having this conversation, but what is the rest of the world doing? I mean, even in Money Matters, I think some of our viewers are adults. I don't think we have this kind of conversation. So I personally thought maybe we should definitely talk about this here, so that more people start thinking about this, start having conversations, and also start like brainstorming ideas on what we can do, how can we play a role. And I think it's important to talk about that. Hence why I was super excited to kind of like get into this particular session. We
Yep,
all,
I
based on the game itself, I think we just played it with a group of youngsters. What was your experience like going through the game with them?
I personally think it was so fun because my group kept debating for each question and we kept trying to find the best answer. So some people were like, no, we must spend on this. No, we can't do that. We're broke. What do we do? So it's really fun to hear the conversation. And I think there's some of them are in the chat right now. So guys, maybe you can share with us what is the one thing you learned from today's session. So I think we have people like Shafinas, we have Ayuni in the group, we have we have Shavina saying very intense choices. We had to put our pet down so they had to kill their pet. And then Emmeline says that our group survived, but we had to make choices that were really tough. So I think when we have Kadir and Isabella, all who joined in as well. So I think first of all, everyone who joined in, this is fun because it's live discussion after you guys played the game. So tell us what you learned in the chat. For me,
Yeah.
the main thing that I learned is we react differently when we have money versus when we don't have money. And the
Hmm.
choices we make are often very reactive. So many people they said that poverty is a mindset, that when you that if you are always the kind of person who is very reactive, who spends unwisely and all of that when you don't have money, when you have money also you will make those same choices because it's a habit pattern. And I thought it's very interesting because games like this, it gets us to understand what are our own habit patterns. Because
Yeah.
in a sense, we talk a lot about solving world problems at the root cause. So fixing the mindset in a sense. And I think games like this help us see when we're under pressure, when we are in a situation where we don't have money, how does your mindset, what is your actual mindset towards these things?
Yeah.
So
I
I
think personally for me, one of the things that I thought was very interesting is also your kind of like the experience you've had makes a difference. So like when I played the game, I'm someone who's now 25, 26, and I have some experience of being an adult where I have to pay my bills and pay my car loan and take care of my car and all of that. So when those kind of questions come up where they're like, oh, you have your electricity bill racking up, are you going to make a payment, are you going to skip the payment and all of that, I tend to get like super paranoid and will be like, pay everything off, we can't have bills and we need to make sure we have electricity and all of that. And then if there were questions where like the young, they say like, oh, your kid wants to go to a birthday party and they want to buy a present, that's $10. Do you want to get it? I'm like, no, my kid doesn't need a $10 birthday present. No, thank you. You can go without the present or you can stay at home. So I'm like, that's how I was thinking, right? And then today I played with a group of youngsters who are basically they are the kids right now, right? So when the bills questions came up, they were like, okay, we can skip this one, we can pay this one, and it was kind of like a, we'll see if I have money and then I'll see what I can do with it, right? That was how they were making decisions. But when it came to all those kid questions, like you are the parent, your kid wants to go for this, your kid wants ice cream, your kid want to go to the museum school trip, all of those questions, they were very passionate about making sure the kid gets what they want. So, and I was like, that's interesting because currently they are in that role in their lives. So for them, they understand how it would feel if you go to a birthday party without a present. You'll be made fun. It is so embarrassing. And there's one about food stamps or something like that, where you get the ticket and then free meals, and then people make fun of you. So they would rather give the lunch money. So they make decisions because they understand where they come from. So many times we judge people based on, like, hey, how can you make that kind of decisions? That's such a stupid money decision. But actually the truth is their experience is very different. You need to be in their shoes and be empathetic towards that, to kind of like understand why they make those decisions in a way. That was personally what I took away. But I see our audiences have begun to share what they have been learning.
Yeah. I learned
Here's
it can be a very stressful lifestyle from here. Our team didn't have money to take breaks, which builds up the stress as a worker.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. We take it for granted, right? Our breaks. Excessive cribble. It's actually interesting that each people has its own choices and why they choose that, and it also differs from our empath, from our choices, depends of how pressure the stage is.
Yep. Let's talk about these two comments for a moment. Like, I think Hira's comment is very good because, like, if you go back to Hira's comment for a second, like, this is
Yep.
actually a habit pattern that many of us have, which is when we don't have money, we don't take breaks, we don't do this, we don't do that. But when we start earning money, because we have that habit pattern, we still don't take breaks. We still don't do this. They still don't do that. Like, man, like, this is one thing that I see in myself in a sense. When I first started out as an entrepreneur, of course, when you first start out, you have no money at all. So you so you naturally don't go for like movies. You don't do this. You don't do that. You cut down a lot of your expenses.
Yep.
But what happened to me at the very least is, as I started growing my business, as I started growing as an entrepreneur, my income increased a little bit more, but my habit pattern stayed the same. So now when I can afford to take breaks, my mind still says, we have no money, we cannot do this, we cannot do that, and all of that. And that's what made me realize that, oh, I have a little bit of that poverty mindset as well. Not so bad, but I have that stress mindset in a way
Yep.
where I don't think something is important. So even if you can afford it, you don't do it when you have the money because your mindset is still stuck in the old way. Madhura, you work with a lot of people. Do you ever see this? And how do you overcome it in a way?
Yes, I think it's habit patterns in all directions, right? So we may think like, oh, okay, so if you were this hardworking person who never took breaks, and then when you do have the money, you still don't take breaks. That's one scenario. And then there's some people I notice, especially with young people like us, who were with our parents. We were taken, everything was taken care of. For me especially, everything was taken care of. I never had to worry about anything in my life. And then I move out, right, and I start living on my own. And then but the thing is, my habit pattern stayed, just like what you said. My habit patterns, where I would can have like any if I go to a restaurant, I don't have to worry about what kind of meal I choose. I can choose a slightly more expensive meal and it's not a problem. But I do not still have the same capacity, because now it's my own earning, and I don't earn as much as my parents. They worked for so many years and then they started earning that amount of money. I don't earn that much. So it's like I need to change those decisions. But it took me a while to realize that, because the habit pattern was still there. And it's not like you'll know that you're doing it. For some time, I did not notice that I was doing it. And then as I kept going, like, why am I running out of money so fast? And I was like, oh my God, it's the same habit pattern. I haven't changed how I deal with things despite moving out. So all kinds of habit patterns tend to stay. And it's one very important
How do
role.
you fix a habit pattern like that? Because I feel like that's one of the reasons why people end up running out of money, especially like as you said, Gen Zs and like youngsters like this who first start going into the working world. How do you fix that?
I think what helps is, like what I said, you need to notice it first. So awareness before change, right? That's one thing our mentor always says. If you don't know you're doing it, there's no way of you fixing it. And I think it's the moment you know it, most people will start fixing it, right? So they'll be like, oh, okay, I have this habit pattern of spending more. Let me cut it down. Let me cut it down, and eventually they'll bring it down to a level that is manageable. So if you are unable to see it, then what helps, of course, is having a mentor or a group of people who are more experienced in this particular area, so that they can guide you and say like, hey, you are doing this. Do you notice it? This is a habit pattern that you have. You need to keep an eye on it. And then, like, oh, okay, I shall pay attention to this. So that tends to help.
Yep, yep. I think maybe we can move to the next comment. I like this comment also by Sharifa Sharizas. I think she said like it's actually interesting that people have their own choices and like what they choose to do, and it often differs from like our empathy and all. I feel like when we like many of you may have gotten stuck at that question where you hit someone else's car in the simulation. And then what do?
Yep.
Do you pay them the money or do you drive off and run away? So we all know that the good thing to do. No, I'm serious. When we didn't have money, all of the questions like this, we're like, we will drive off, we will do this, we will do that. But when we have the money, we're like, oh, pay la, it's okay, like it's all right, and all of that, which I
Yep.
think is very funny because it's like we always think about being like we have to do. I wouldn't say the right thing, but we have to treat others like how we would like to be treated. So if you like you have to give first. You have to, in a way, what goes around comes around. You have to live by that. And unfortunately, sometimes when you don't have money, that is so much harder than when you do have money, in a sense. What are your thoughts on this? Have you ever been in that situation, Madhura?
Yeah, I mean, even during the game, right? Even myself, um, see, when I at my current point in life, I still have enough money to handle my emergencies and all that. But if I was in the situation of where you are in the game, which is you are in poverty, you only have 1,000. You start off the game with $1,000, and that's all you have. And by the time you come to the day 3 and 4, you already run out of like money. I think most people had like $100 at the fourth day. You have to wait for your payday, so it's a very stressful situation. So you tend to make different choices. Like even myself, I chose like I would drive off, and I would kind of like skip this thing and all of that. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting. I think I hold on to my values, like all these things. I'll do it right if the scenario is right. We tend to judge people, like, oh, look at these people, they don't pay their maintenance fees. Look at these people, they don't pay their taxes, they're so irresponsible. Well, we can make a lot of comments. But then now that I play the game and I realize, oh my god, if I was in that level of like having that amount of funds and that amount of stress, I probably would make the exact same decisions. So it was kind of getting me to think like maybe you should take another pause and really think about it. Of course, in the game you can't do like find other solutions, but in real life situations, maybe I should spend more time coming up with solutions and other ideas to implement it, and not go into the very reactive um, react.
Yep.
I mean, don't be too reactive in a way. Yep.
I agree, and I think like part of solving world problems is you have to have compassion for other people. You have to empathize with them in a sense. And I think that many times we judge people, so that stops us from finding real solutions for them in a way. So I think like
Yep.
one of the things that I like from this game in a sense, I realized that, oh my god, so many things like your family pays for you, your bill, your electricity, your groceries, and all that you don't even think about in a sense.
Yep.
So if you can be aware of that other people have these expenses, number one, you'll be a lot nicer to your parents, first of all. You'll be a lot nicer to people in an accident. If they hit and run, you'll be like, okay, maybe they're facing something in a way. So when we stop being so reactive, we stop starting those negative cycles, we stop sending out those negative thoughts in a way. And overall, it helps us as people, in a sense, attract to us the funds, the things that we need, instead of going out there and just keep scolding people and in a way, giving out the negative energy that will start a different cycle. So I thought that was an interesting point, and I thought we could spend some time on that.
Yes, completely agree. We have another one here, which I thought was interesting. I was also quite taken aback by this scenario where, so they shared about the union, right? Where somebody from the union comes up to you about better pay, and do you have a conversation with them? And I think in my team we actually lost our job because we did have a conversation with them, and then we had to survive the rest of the month without a job. So I thought that was very interesting, right? So we tend to go like, hey, why are you not standing up for yourself? And I used to think that, right? Why do people not stand up for themselves? They should fight for their rights and those kind of stuff. And then I realized it's survival versus rights. It's they need to get through that month, they need to have that job to be able to pay. So as people, especially young people, like right now, most of us have not gone through these scenarios, but we are very passionate about giving equal right to people and giving opportunities to people. I think our generation is very different in that sense. So we may be very passionate, and then we may feel like, hey, why are you guys not coming on board? We want to support you, we want to help you out, we want to make this possible for you. We may feel different. Like even for me, I tend to, like, with kids, working with youngsters, I'm like, why do youngsters not take up this opportunity? It's amazing and all of that. This made me think like, hey, you kind of like have to really understand what's happening, and maybe there's other consequences that we are not seeing but they are going through.
Yep, yep. And one of the things that when we are looking at things like solving world problems and all of that, like one of the things that I notice is you have to be mindful of what's going through in other people's minds. Like one of the reasons why people say we already have solutions for electric cars. Why can't we just use electric cars? Why can't people just come in and replace all of the cars that are running on petrol with electric cars, or close down all of the coal planted like power plants and replace it with renewable energy? But what many people, why a lot of employees in companies or Gen Xers and all of that are not so supportive in the beginning is because if you do that, everyone who works in the oil and gas companies, in the electricity companies that currently exist, will lose their jobs. And you guys now know how hard it is to keep your job, right? So that is one of the reasons why change is really hard. Is because even though we know the right thing is to move towards a more greener world, by doing so, so many people will lose their jobs. So many people will be affected by this. So as we start finding ways to solve these problems, we also have to be mindful of finding solutions for issues like this, finding ways to actually help people in these situations in a sense, so that they don't end up being that person who speaks up and loses their job in a sense. And I think another thing, like I think Emily is still suffering from the car crash and that choice in a way. But the other thing that I thought was also quite interesting was I think Isabella said something like we had to make a choice about grandpa and money. So that basically was a very funny one where there was a funeral, but the funeral is in a different state. So you had to
Yep.
drive down or fly down, which costs money, or you don't go for the funeral. And at that time, we had no money. So everyone was so sad in a way. So this is actually something that I feel um, a lot of people face, not necessarily for funerals, but they want to do something. They really want to do something, but they don't have the money to do it, or they feel like they don't have the money to do it. There's
Hmm.
one thing that I personally like one of the people that I work with on planning my finances used to say is you need to have a budget every month on things that you want to do. Because only when you keep your mind happy, when you do the things that make you happy, will you actually be motivated to go out there and work and go out there and live the life that you want in a sense.
Yep.
So it could be things that make you happy, seeing your family, allocating money. You cannot allocate money for funerals, but allocating money to go and spend time with your family, take them on trips. Or if you want, just allocate money to go for movies. You want to allocate money for some people, they love food. So they have a huge budget to eat good food that they love. And it's different for each person. But if you don't have that amount of money a month to do the things that you want, naturally you will feel really stressed out, and you get sad when you don't have the opportunity to do this. And I'm the kind of person where I calculate, the way I budget last time used to be I calculate exactly how much I need to survive. That means minimum food, rental, this, that, this. I say, okay, my income matches, all right, I'm okay. And my mentors were like, no, you cannot do that. You need to have some extra money or a budget allocated for the things you want to do. Only then will your mind be motivated to earn more money.
I agree. I agree. I think the other thing that happened in the game that I kind of, I personally was quite intrigued by. They didn't go much into it, which was the grocery shopping, right? I think
Mhm.
somebody here shared about we had to buy the groceries, but we forgot we had a child, which is fun. They didn't really go much into our choices in the grocery shopping itself. We just had to like take the monetary deductions and then move on with it. But I thought it was very interesting. We have uh, unhealthy food tends to be cheap, so it's a vicious cycle, right? I think this game pointed out the vicious cycle beautifully, and I loved it because it shows that okay, you go grocery shopping, what is cheap for you to buy? It's if you want to have a healthy orange juice which is like fresh pressed and all of that, that's going to cost you a bomb compared to just buying those powder cordial orange juice. And so you buy the cordial orange juice, but what is in the cordial orange juice is just pure sugar, so you tend to ingest that. So when you eat your ramen because it's cheap, you take things because they're cheaper, because you can't afford to buy good food, in a way, healthy food. So you eat cheap food, you get more and more sick. Like you have a higher risk of diabetes, you have a higher risk of hypertension. You are stressed at work because you can't take a break. Because why can't you take a break? Because you can't skip a day at work, you get a strike. Or if you do take a break, you need money to take that break, so you don't tend to take a break, so you are now stressed as well. So with all of these issues going on, there's high chances you're going to get a heart attack or something going on. If let's say you missed your insurance premiums during that timing, your insurance is not going to kick in, Now you have a medical bill. So it was just like things will just keep going wrong when you start off in that place. So when we want to go and solve poverty, like we want to make put an end to this, it is not that easy, in the sense of you won't be able to just like go like, okay folks, I'm gonna give you all of you jobs and it's done. I think one thing I learned was, like, I've seen my mentor work with individuals, and how he helped them come out of their poverty, right? How did he help them come up from whichever background they were from? And it required a lot of investment into them. So sometimes they may have some bills that they have to pay, but they can't pay, and you may need to step in and help out. And not just in that one area. You don't just give money. You have to guide them on their mental health. You have to guide them on having a break. You must guide them on building a career. You must guide them on making responsible decisions. You must guide them on having a good relationship with their family, communicating with their kids, being truthful with the people around them. You have to guide them on all these different areas for them to actually come out of it.
Yep.
Because if you don't do that, if you just give money, like, oh, you're poor, let me give you a lot of money, you'll be okay. After that, it's going to fail horribly. So I think this game pointed out very nicely how each of these things, like, they connect with each other, like it just keeps connecting to each other. It's just one big vicious cycle. And hence why so many people, the moment they go into poverty, they just cannot come out of it, because it just keeps going on and on and on and on, and no enough support is given in a way.
And I really
That's
like the point you made, which is no, I really like the point you made, which is like, even if you have the money, if you have a job, you will still end up eating the not so nutritious food. You still end up getting sick. You still end up missing the job. You still end up in that same cycle. I know one thing that was very interesting that I think our mentors did with us, and I've seen them do with other people, which is they invest in experiences. So more than giving you the money, they give you experiences for you to expand your mind, in a sense. So like there's this one girl I know we work with who came from a bit more of a low income family. So whenever she budget her food, she doesn't budget to buy like these expensive burgers or things like that and all. So she'll buy like the cheapest food possible, in a sense, just to eat. And there's one time which her mentor basically said something like, the mentor saw that some friends were ordering this burger, and the burger was like 20 ringgit or something like that. And the girl's like, no, no, I don't want to try. I don't really like burgers. But the mentor saw all this and she was like, no, you want to try. She could see that the girl wanted to try, but her mindset was just, don't invest in good food, or don't invest in kind of food that's expensive. So the mentor said, you know what, I'll get you the burger, in a sense. And got her the burger and all of that. More than the value of the 20 ringgit of the burger, the experience of eating the burger teaches the mind that we can have things like this. We can experience things like this, and the mind will find ways and means to earn the income level so that you can experience those kind of things. It's the same thing that even now my mentor says, every now and then invest in an experience, save up and invest in an experience that is slightly more atas, or slightly more than your normal everyday life. Because what it will do to your mind is, it will show your mind more possibilities, and it will motivate your mind to increase that income level, and bring you out of the current cycle you're in.
Yep, agreed. So I think there's like experiences, and just getting used to the idea, and a lot of other things needs to come into play as well. I like this particular comment. I thought we can um talk about it, which is, I wonder what more we will go through if we are going for another month or perhaps a year. Because like my team played for 1 month, right? We went through that 1 month, and we ended up we had about a $1,300 debt to three different people. We owed a friend, we owed our dentist, we needed a dental appointment, and then we owed somebody else money as well.
My
So
God,
I was like,
700 like debt because we didn't pay our gas.
yeah. And I was like, oh my God, it's barely a month. What's going to happen in month two? And then there's going to be more debts. And then you're not going, and then the credit card thing was interesting, because like they were, you have this amount of credit card debt. Are you going to pay off your debt, or are you going to pay minimum payment? I was like, hell no, I'm not going to pay the full amount. I got no money. I'm going to pay the minimum payment. And then they said, it will take you 17 years to pay this loan off. I'm like, kill me, God, this is so hard. So I thought it was very interesting when we in the simulation we experienced 1 month, but just kind of like times 10, 20, 30, some even years, right? 30 years in poverty and all of that. If you times by that, that kind of shows how much of trauma it would be. So that was very interesting for me.
Yep. And a few comments here, I think, by like Harish, and I think by a few others are saying like, I didn't realize, like Emily also, I didn't realize that one decision you make affects another decision in a sense. So I think that's a nice kind of recap that they're having, and kind of I see many conversations, and especially around the job security one as well. There's a whole conversation on that in a sense of your
Yep.
two strikes and how your decisions change based on those two strikes. So very interesting comments. Good job, guys, on playing the game. And this is another thing, we also get stressed about the money. So which I think is something that we often don't see in a way, like many of us, especially when you're a kid, you're like, why are our parents so stressed out about money? Like, what is so stressful about it? And then I feel like when we play games like this, we realize that, oh my gosh, there's so many things to think about that it is not even registering in my brain. And just like my experiences, in a sense, I'm very lucky that like I transitioned slowly, like from being a student to being an entrepreneur, and being a bit more self-sustaining. So when I started my entrepreneurial journey, it's not like I was paying all. It's not like next day I was like, Mom, I'm going to pay all of this. No, it was really when I started like finishing school. I had my business. I started growing it a little bit, and I started looking at, okay, what can I do in the smaller sense? So I started really simple by just buying my own phone. Then after that, I started, paying for my own food,
Yep.
buying my own clothes, and this was all over many years. Then recently, like when I finished school, I started paying my rental. That even now there's still some expenses that I'm slowly taking over from my parents that I didn't even know existed as expenses, like my phone bill. I was like, oh, okay, I have to take over my phone bill. Then recently they were like, do you know we pay insurance for you every month? I was like, I did not know that. So I started taking over the insurance in a way. So slowly it's not about one day becoming independent. We're not going to throw you into a day, into a month and say you have $1,000, pick a job, pick a do this in a sense, which is what I
Yep.
think most people make the mistake of doing. But if you can start having these conversations with your parents, like now itself, and start earning small amounts of income, whether it's through a passion project you're working on or through doing something that you love in a sense, and start small now, slowly you can transition. So that by the time, like for me, when I finished school at like 18, I was able to slowly take on more decisions. And it took me about a year and a half to where I am today to really take up most of my expenses. So if you can have those conversations, the stress about money will not suddenly have so many bills, so many things, so many stuff that you need to do. It's something that you gradually can build.
Yep. I think it'll be also one reason why in Ascendance we emphasize a lot on teenage entrepreneurship is also because of this. I mean, as much as one, it gives you the ability to start earning and you may be able to build up the capacity, like what Harsha said, like you start taking care of certain expenses. And by the time you're in your 20s, you would be much more capable than most people. That's one thing for sure. But the other thing I think that helps a lot is the mindset of an entrepreneur. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to find, you will be like an expert at finding solutions, because that whole point of entrepreneurship is finding solutions. That's what
Yeah.
it is all about. Your whole business is about solving some problem, and then to make sure you can execute your solution for the problem, you will face more problems, and then just have to keep solving them. So when we kind of like build that mind muscle of like finding solutions. Oh, I put out my poster, nobody replied. What can I do? So when you keep coming up with ideas like, okay, this is maybe I can start texting this group of people first, and then directly approach them and have a conversation with them, solve the problem. Next, and you talk to them, and then they say, oh my god, your product looks horrible, I'm not gonna buy it. And it's like, okay, how can I present it in a much more interesting way so that it's appealing to them? So we tend to find solutions when we're entrepreneurs. So if you have that mindset, if you are somebody with that mindset and you are in poverty, there's a higher chance of you finding a solution and coming out of it. And it's not just this problem. I think you have a higher chance of solving any problem you're in and come out of it. I think solving world problems workshop has been speaking about so many different areas of the world problems things, because not just one thing, it's many different things. So if you that's why we emphasize a lot on entrepreneurship, right? So that people, no matter what area they are in, they'll be able to find solutions and come out of it, which I thought was important to share
And
with
I like
us.
this comment. It says, I guess we can say that money really matters for our living. So, yeah, and money is really important in life. Without money, we can't do anything in a sense. And it's funny that these comments out there. Madhura, how do we, like, one thing that I feel, and we end up like happening to us when we start, like, recently there's a lot of statistics saying Gen Zs are very money minded, but they're very focused on like getting a good job and all of that. They don't really like they want the funds to be able to live their lifestyle. How do we start, like, now that we're scared and we realize, oh my god, you need so much money in a sense, how do we start balancing it kind of like between not having like not being so money minded and only thinking about money, and not forgetting everything else in our life, like the goals, the causes we want, while at the same time still having money to live?
See, I think there's two types of way you can choose to live your life. There is the people who would survive, and that is more than enough for them. And then there are people who choose to thrive, I would say. So if you're someone who chooses to survive, then you probably would be my man in the sense of, hey, I'm gonna get a job so that this job can pay for my bills. If I want to go for one vacation a year, I'm gonna make sure my money covers it, and I'm gonna do extra jobs, take up part-time jobs so that I can cover it and all of that. That's all they are thinking about, So solutions that people who are in the survive mode are on, it's very typical. This is what, like, the like when you are done with school, let's go get a part-time job at McDonald's or Starbucks. That's somebody who's in the survive zone, because for them it's just like, I am alive now, I have to have some money to cover it, so I'm just gonna get this and be okay with it. And then there are the ones who thrive, and in my opinion, we need more people who are in this particular area, because right now the world has too many people on the survive side, not enough people on the thrive side, which is they think beyond. No matter how much you have right now, you think beyond surviving. You think about, how can I not just make myself grow, but the people around me grow, the ideas that I have grow. How can I leave an impact to the world? How can I make the world a better place? When they think in that level, they're not too money minded. They will need money, like what you guys said. You need money to get stuff done. I think that was something I had took a long time to accept, but you do need money to get stuff done. But that is not your primary focus. Your ideas, your life is so much bigger. It's just a tool right now. Money is just a tool, nothing more. So it tends to not get too much of prominence. It's in its place, in my opinion. It's in its place. It's a tool. It's supposed to help you. That's it. But that life is so much more. So I think we should choose to live in this area. If you do, the decisions you make with regards to what kind of experience you have, the decisions you make with regards to what you study, what you do as a job, who you associate with, who do you spend time with, all of these things will change, because now it's much bigger than just existing and having a good time while I exist.
And I think it also goes back to goals, right? I feel like for me, at the very least, what made a difference for me is two things. Number one, I started very young. So the good thing that all of you guys, I think many of you watching are students in a sense. So if you start figuring out what you love doing right now, like, you can start your journey now. So you don't have to worry about bills, you don't have to worry about food, you don't have to worry about all of these things right now. You can just focus on doing something that you love and figuring out how to use the thing that you love to earn a little bit of money in a sense. And if you can start doing that now, not only do you do that transition thing, but it helps you focus not on how much you're earning, the stress, the this, the that. It helps you really focus on the thing you're passionate about and how you can use that thing you're passionate about in a sense. And I feel like that was the thing that helped me so much, is because I started focusing, like, my journey, I started because it was doing something that I love. The money thing didn't really, I wouldn't say it didn't bother me at all, but it was not the main priority. And you know what they say, right? When you do something that you love, the money comes naturally. It doesn't mean that you one day go and play guitar, next day Disney will call you and offer you a spot in their commercial. No, it means if you really work hard in the things that you love doing, naturally you will, the seeds that you sow, that hard work that you put in, will come back as the returns, as the money. And the more fun you have, the more natural that you actually work hard, and the more natural that you actually send out the vibrations to attract to you the funds to actually do the things that you want. So just like that, I feel like for many of you, take the opportunity now to explore what you love doing. Because if you do it when you're finishing school and finishing university and all, you will do it with stress, and you will just settle for whatever is available. So do it now when you still have the opportunity to figure out your life before worrying about the money.
Okay, shall we take one last one of those comments and have a and kind of like wrap up our takeaways for today? There was many. I mean, all we have been talking about our takeaways for 40 minutes now. But, there's. I mean, everyone's stuck on the grandpa funeral thing. But the game is scary because it is a reality that people undergo currently in the world. How can we help them? I think that's a nice question to end our session today.
How can we help them? That's a good point. Number one, you have to be able to help yourself. Like, you really have to be able to help yourself, because if you cannot understand your own habit patterns, you'll never be able to correct someone else's habit pattern. I think I'm not in the position right now to go and help anyone else, because I still have so many money mistakes in my own brain. Not because I don't know how to earn money, I don't know how to do this, but because even as my income change, I'm still stuck in my old habit patterns. But I'm learning how to help other people, because I see how my mentors help me, how I react to playing games like this. I come for sessions like Money Matters and understand myself a little bit better. So as I work with the next generation of SNS, as I work with the others around me, it's easy for me to understand what they're going through and what their subconscious programming is trying to get them to do, so that I can correct them and get them on track. And the second part of it is, now that you know the problem, the solutions are not going to come from earning more money, from doing this, from doing that. We need something radical, something that completely changes the game. Like, what if we just take money out of the equation? What if we just provide food for everyone? There was one session we had of this solving world problems, where if you had to design a world without money, what would you do to ensure that everyone was able to have their basic needs and live a life that they wanted? And some of you came up with really great, really great answers, which is have general food banks. So in every city, in every town, have a farm where the food is just for free. Or
Yep.
instead of paying a finance tax, everyone has to spend a certain amount. Their tax is their time, where that's the amount of time they have to work on the farm, or they have to work in a McDonald's or something, to produce food free for everyone, so that half your worries regarding money is gone. If you really want to solve problems like this, you can even look at technology. How do you turn energy into matter? Like in Star Trek, they have the replicators that turns nothing into food. So if you can think of solutions like this, or free electricity for everyone, no, people can start reducing their expenses, and we won't be stuck in problems that we all just saw in this simulation, because we will have all of our basic needs taken care of. So push yourself to think and start looking at what is the craziest things that we can do to go out there and solve these world problems. And to figure out how to do that, come for our solving world problem sessions every Sunday at 2 p.m., where we challenge our minds to come up with these solutions.
I'm still caught on that idea you mentioned of you pay your taxes with your time. That's something very interesting. So yeah, I think we are all beginning to slowly open up our mind. Even for me, we are beginning to entertain these ideas, beginning to entertain the radical ideas that we could possibly have the audacity to think, as our mentor would say. So thank you so much, Hasha, for doing solving world problems workshop. I think it's opening up the minds of a lot of young people, and also old people like me. Not so old, but the every generation needs to be a part of this process. So thank you so much for running this workshop, because it's opening up all of our minds and getting us thinking about these topics. It's very important to have this.
Yeah, but I think it's nice that we have our sessions back to back, so we can balance it between solving world problems crazily and fixing your problems now, so that you can live to solve those world problems.
Yep, agree. So guys, both Money Matters and Solving World Problems is part of the teenageentrepreneur.com. So you guys can actually be a part of the teenageentrepreneur.com. I think most of you tuning in here are already part of our platform, but if you're not, then you may visit Ascendance's website, www.ascendancepro.com. For a moment, I forgot the website name. And you can join Ascendance, right? So make sure you guys join Ascendance, be a part of our team, be a part of this course, and we hope to continue solving more world problems together. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, and we will see you guys soon in the next episode of Money Matters. Bye, guys.